guys, this is Matt Brunet, and welcome to Movie News Weekly, hosted by FilmBook. Now, before we begin, let's take a look at what we got in this week's news, which includes Panther beats Guns and Spies, The Real Fallen Kingdom, Dora will come next year, Groot is dead, DreamWorks Moneymaker, Once Upon a Time with Brad, Kristen might be a cheetah, Disney's schedule switch, Luke meets Star-Lord, and The New Kingdom from the Fallen One. So with that said, let's get things started. Did you really think Guns and Spies would take down this guy? Black Panther still remains strong in first place at the box office for its third weekend in a row, where the movie managed to grab almost $66 million. This also helped the Marvel movie to achieve a total of $500 million domestically and has reached around $900 million worldwide. It is to be expected that by next week, Black Panther will cross $1 billion. As for the new movies, they still remain up there and try to gather what they can while the MCU film is still dominating. The Jennifer Lawrence film Red Sparrow got up in second with about $17 million, while the Bruce Willis gun film Death Wish lands in third with $13 million. Meanwhile, last week's movies had to step down to make room for the new ones, where Game Night got down to 4th with less than $11 million, and Annihilation down to 6th with around $5.5 million, behind Peter Rabbit with about $10 million. You think this sounds like it'll be over for them, but this is just the beginning of a giant mess. The Weinstein Company officially announced that it will be declaring bankruptcy. The statement was made after a deal with the investors Ron Burkle and Maria Contreras-Sweet for $500 million was called off. The company even sent them an email stating, "Based on the events of the past week, however, we must conclude that your plan to buy this company was illusory and would only leave this company hobbling towards its demise to the detriment of all its constituents." The letter stated, "Despite your previous statements, it is simply impossible to avoid the conclusion that you have no intention to sign an agreement, much less to close one, and no desire to save valuable assets and jobs." New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman was said to have approved of the deal, but Weinstein had to call it off because Schneiderman filed a lawsuit at the company over the sexual abuse caused by co-founder Harvey Weinstein. However, bankruptcy experts claim that this move will be problematic for Weinstein's victims, as it will make it more difficult for them to get compensation. Can you say 2019? Paramount Pictures officially announced that they will be releasing the Dora the Explorer movie in the summer of 2019. During that time, the company will also be bringing out some of their big-name franchises onto the forefront, including the 7th Transformers film on June 28th, the Top Gun remake on July 12th, and the 6th Terminator film for July 28th. While no cast or directors have been announced for this project, the story of the film is said to be set many years after the events of the Nick Jr. series, where Dora, now a teenager, goes into the big city with her cousin Diego. The movie will be produced by Platinum Dunes' Brad Fuller and Andrew Form, and it will be written by Nick Stoller, whose writing credits fit the bill for this kind of movie, since he worked on the 2011 Muppets film and its sequel, Muppets Most Wanted, and Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. Dora will be coming to the big screen on August 7th, 2019. Now, before you continue, just a little warning that this could contain some spoilers to the Guardians of the Galaxy films. On Twitter, what started as a fun little debate over saving either Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy or the Porgs from Star Wars: The Last Jedi, director James Gunn went to clarify to one of the fans that Groot ultimately died at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, and what grew afterwards was his son. This is not the first time that Gunn had to talk to fans on social media about Groot's death. On Facebook, back in September, he made an entire post talking about bringing back dead characters and said, "I also mentioned to folks who kept throwing the Groot revival thing in my face that example doesn't really work because Groot is dead. Although I don't necessarily think it's obvious in Volume 1, it's important to say that if you exploded and a little glob of you started growing into a baby, I would not assume that baby was you. Groot the Second and his pals will return in Avengers: Infinity War on May 4th. I mean April 27th. I'll get to that later. Well, at least the company's money will be handled well. Kelly Betts has been promoted at DreamWorks Animation to be the Chief Financial Officer. Previously, the 13-year veteran of DreamWorks was just the CFO of its television division. She will now take over the finances of the entire studio, including the short and long-term planning of the films and their budgets, and looking over the profits, as well as continuing to look into the greenlight process for their TV shows. She will be reporting to the big heads of the animation studio, including COO Abhijay Parkash, television president Margie Cohn, and feature animation group president Chris DeFaria. This year, DreamWorks Animation does not have an animated feature scheduled, since the next one, How to Train Your Dragon 3, will be out on March 2019. But they have a total of 6 new animated series that would come out through 2018, including Trolls The Beat Goes On that's already available, a spin-off of Troll Hunters, a show based on She-Ra, The Boss Baby, and Captain Underpants the First Epic Movie. And not just that, but it now even has a title! Brad Pitt has signed on with Sony Pictures in order to star in Quentin Tarantino's next movie, now officially called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He will be joining the cast that includes Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. Sony even released a description of the film that says, the story that takes place in Los Angeles in 1969, at the height of hippie Hollywood. The 2 lead characters are Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, former star of a Western TV series, and his longtime stunt double, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. Both are struggling to make it in a Hollywood they don't recognize anymore, but Rick has a very famous next-door neighbor, Sharon Tate. Tarantino stated about the film, "I've been working on this script for 5 years, as well as living in Los Angeles County most of my life, including in 1969, where I was 7 years old. I'm very excited to tell this story of an LA and a Hollywood that doesn't exist anymore, and I couldn't be happier about the dynamic teaming of DiCaprio and Pitt as Rick and Cliff. 1969 will come back on August 9th, 2019. Will she accept to harness the power of the cheetah? Kristen Wiig is in talks with Warner Brothers in order to be the villain in the sequel to Wonder Woman. While there is not much known about the plot other than it is set in the 1980s around the Cold War, Wiig would be playing as Cheetah, a woman who has the powers of the African cat. While Cheetah was introduced in the 6th issue of the original comic in 1943 by the creator William Moulton Marston, but it wasn't until in 1987 where her true fame rose in the DC world by Len Wein and George Perez. In their interpretation, Cheetah is actually Dr. Barbara Ann Minerva, a British anthropologist who went to an expedition in an African jungle and ended up getting the same strengths and agility as a cheetah. This would make an interesting career move for Wiig, as she is normally associated with working on comedies, especially how she started off working on Saturday Night Live, which includes Bridesmaids, Zoolander 2, and the reboot of Ghostbusters. Wonder Woman will be back in theaters on November 1st, 2019. Change your calendars, because Disney is switching things up. The Walt Disney Company officially revealed its new list of upcoming feature films that are going to be released in the future. The biggest change is the addition of 25 untitled movies from Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar Animation Studios, Marvel Studios, and Walt Disney Studios going up to 2023. In terms of the already announced films, the most significant one is Avengers Infinity War, where the movie was announced to move up to 1 week from May 4th to April 27th. However, the biggest delay would be from the live-action remake of Mulan. Originally scheduled to come out on November of this year, it ended up getting to be pushed up to March 27th, 2020. The company also put emphasis on another live-action remake, the officially titled Disney's Christopher Robin, will remain seated on its August 3rd release date. Also, there are 2 movies that are taken out from their schedule. There's Disney Toon Space, the spin-off of the Cars franchise, and the holiday comedy Nicole, starring Anna Kendrick, which will instead be released on Disney's upcoming streaming service. For all the horrible things the social media platform has done, at least one good thing can come out of it. On Twitter, a fan asked regarding the possibility of adding actor Mark Hamill into the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to director James Gunn. What followed afterwards is a conversation between Hamill and Gunn sharing a high interest into making that actually possible, ending the chat off with them saying to continue the direct message section. While there is no confirmation regarding if Hamill would be in the movie, or any word regarding the new additions to the third installment, this does show that we might see Hamill go into the transition jumping from the Star Wars franchise to Marvel, a move that was also done by Andy Serkis, Lupita Nyong'o, and Forest Whitaker. There is no specific release date confirmed for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but it is said that it will come in 2020. And here's the biggest plot twist of this video. Turns out that not only the Weinstein Company will not declare bankruptcy, but it has officially sold its asset to Maria Contreras-Sweet and Ron Burkle's investor group. The board of directors at Weinstein stated, "The deal provides a clear path for compensation for victims and protects the jobs of our employees. We greatly appreciate the efforts of Attorney General Schneiderman and his staff, Maria Contreras-Sweet, Ron Burkle, and his team at UKIPA for bringing around this agreement. We consider this to be a positive outcome under what's been incredibly difficult circumstances." What makes this deal great for the people around the company is that not only will the 150 jobs be saved, but it also means that the victims of Harvey Weinstein's sexual abuse will be compensated. What the investors plan to do with the Weinstein Company is to turn it into a brand new film studio that will put emphasis on protecting their employees, and board of directors will be mostly led by women. And that's all I've got for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to head on down to film-book.com for all the latest movie and TV news, along with their columns on the box office and their theatrical release schedule. Also, you can follow them on whatever social media you'd like. And while you're at it, you can follow me on my YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter if you're more into stuff like animation, Disney, and my weird sense of humor. If you were watching this on YouTube, then hit that like button and come subscribe to us, and also leave a little comment on what you think on the news this week. If you were listening to this on a podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, then don't forget to rate and review what you just heard. Tune in next time for another round of Movie News Weekly, and until next week, see you later, dudes!